Have a look at my review of Howard Hawks' El Dorado from 1966. So yes, we are back once again, really discussing another Western on the channel, and this time around, the second in this loose trilogy of films that Howard Hawks and John Wayne made between 1959 and 70. Of course, Rio Bravo, El Dorado, and Rio Lobo being the third as well that I haven't yet seen, and that is actually the final, Howard Hawks film. But yes, this being the middle film, of this kind of loose trilogy of films, was really excited to see this, and saw it a few weeks ago now. So looking forward to discussing this film today. And there will be a spoiler warning, of course. So if you haven't seen this film, I simply recommend seeing it first, and then come back to this video, and then we can go from there, and we can discuss this film in the comments and all things westerns. So yes, with all that said, let's discuss my thoughts on this film. So a very interesting film, this being the second film in this kind of loose trilogy of films. And again, I haven't seen Rio Lobo yet, but I will be getting to that eventually, in the next couple of months, and I look forward to that. So Rio Bravo, to put the context, is one of my favourite westerns of all time, and I just think it is a masterpiece. Wow, what a film it is. I've seen it a couple of times, and it's just one of those that I could just watch all day, and it's definitely one of my top 15, currently or so, favourite westerns that I've seen. So yeah, absolutely love that film. So I was very intrigued to see this one. Kind of got some variations, some renditions, in this between characters, across the trilogy, it seems like, and certainly some similarities, quite a few, between this and Rio Bravo. And of course, once again, we have John Wayne in this film, who's absolutely legendary here, and I do really like at times the pairing between him and of course James Caan in this film. But I like how it's kind of at first fairly simple. It's not the most interesting of plots at first, but it was at least something I could follow, and could see, that's kind of interesting, and a bit layered there, where we have, of course, J.P. Harrow, and he comes into town, of course, and goes to see Cole Thornton, and naturally Cole Thornton, being this gun for hire, he's given this offer from Bart Jason, and essentially we have, of course, Robert Mitchum's character of J.P. Harrow kind of dissuading him to take this offer. And we have this cut ahead as well, 6 months later at one point, and after avoiding El Dorado, the town, we have John Wayne, of course, seeing him again. And I love, that first meet-up between him and obviously James Caan, the film Mississippi he plays, and it's a very interesting character he plays, and that's when the film, I think personally, really starts to pick up a bit more, and we have that kind of meeting there. It's very well done, and just the introduction of Mississippi as a character, and James Caan's performance there, when he's not really, given as much dialogue as well, dialogue heavy stuff. I think that was when the film, that character as well was at its best, and just the introduction here, and I think it's interesting how we have that, first kind of setup though, and then we cut ahead 6 months later. It's a nice way to kind of, set the film up, and, it's a lot of weight that's added to John Wayne's character, and, I found it to be, the way it set up the plot, again, not the most interesting for me, I think, but, the character working here, and the way that some dynamics are set up, and the atmosphere, I thought was really, really good, and John Wayne, is just great in this film. I just love the titles as well, Nelson Riddle doing the score to this, and just the song, El Dorado song, the theme here, it's absolutely stunning, just all the images there, the artwork, it's so good to look at, and the song, I absolutely love, and just a great way to open the film. It does lead into, as well as we know, the kind of first scene where we have J.P. Harrow walking through the town there, of course, Robert Mitchum, and it's just a great, kind of way to introduce the film. And generally the first act, well, the plot is not the most interesting. It does have some moments, and I think it's just a nice way to set the characters up, easygoing kind of, feel to the film. And when we get to Mississippi coming into the film, I was thinking, this is kind of picking up. I think, really to sum it up, going through the film, we have, unfortunately, at times the film loses me with the plot. It never really got to a point where it developed into this plot where I could really follow this, and get truly behind and invested in the plot. But I think the characters, when they're kind of just simply interacting, it's kind of the best of Howard Hawks is that, I think, and Rio Bravo, is a perfect film for me, but especially the characters in that film, and just the interactions, the hangout feel they had. This film kind of has that at times, although it's a bit different, and it's not as kind of focused in just a few locations on the characters and all this, and it's nowhere near as long as that film, but it does feel more drawn out, and I think Rio Bravo is that perfect blend, of a simple plot, interesting ways it's set up, and just locations, but just really focusing on the characters and making the characters the actual main plot itself, and how they're interacting, the progression of the characters and the narrative there. But I think this film suffers a bit, quite a bit actually, with just the way in which the plot is kind of interwoven with the characters whenever they're talking about different things off screen, and just we've got again more progression of the actual plot. I think it does suffer just for me personally, and I'm not as invested. It's funny because I do love individually, at times the characters, like JP Harrer, his kind of alcoholic, struggles, in this film. It's very, it's something you can relate to and kind of get immersed in, sympathetic for. I do really like the way that progresses, and it's just a really, it's done in a fun way. This film, the interactions and some of the themes, it's quite dark. It could be, but it's done in a fun way. I really enjoyed the progression of that, and I think kind of took a back seat at times, the characters, and the action in this film is definitely engaging, but in the second half of the film, I think it's not quite as engaging as it should have been, and I think just a lot of it is night time, and it's not the most interesting visually, in that portion of the film, but I think throughout, it's definitely competent action, and it's engaging enough, and some different various shootouts in the film that I did enjoy, quite a bit, and just the whole presence of John Wayne, and that kind of dynamic between him and James Caan, this younger guy who kind of is kind of this mentor to becomes, and as well just Robert Mitchum, his character, it added a lot of interesting dynamics throughout the film, but I think even the supporting characters in this definitely quite enjoyable, but when it's kind of very plot heavy in this film, it just kind of loses me, and I could never really get truly invested in the actual plot and the way it was kind of handled in this, and other kind of villains of the film and all this, they weren't kind of done in the most interesting of ways for me personally, and I was never truly wrapped up in that kind of aspect of the film. I think just the way in which I definitely think Robert Mitchum was a highlight in this, and the way his kind of characters, as I say, kind of gets over this alcoholism, and I think it was very well done, and I think even just the funny nature of some of the final acts, in that sense, it was something I could get behind, and I think just John Wayne, the way his character kind of just he's very much his own thing again, and he's kind of very headstrong, and I did love that dynamic between him and James Caan, who is kind of trying to it'd be like one of these characters, but he's not quite there. He's very naive, and there's a lot of things to learn. So I really enjoyed that dynamic between him and John Wayne, and I think that was really well done. One of the highlights of the film, and just at times we've got some romances hinted at as well, some different relations behind the scenes, and I think it was fine enough. Again, it wasn't the most interesting for me, but it was fine. It was charming enough, and I think that in terms of the flow of the film, because of the plot, the way it's kind of balanced at times, the imbalance really of the film with the plot and the characters, and kind of the action sequences, I think it does, it's kind of it's not the best of flows to the film. The editing is mostly very good, but it's just the meshing of all these aspects. They don't quite fit together fully, so it does kind of feel at times a bit stilted, and we've got moments where I just think it's definite lulls of the film, and but transitioning between the acts is a bit of an issue for me. Not a major one, just a slight for me, definitely. And I did feel this film dragging at times, and as I say, because I was never really truly invested in the plot, I think that was one of the reasons for this, because the characters, the main characters, core characters of the film, I did really enjoy, and I loved at times the dynamics between them. But I think overall the final act, it came together quite well, and I did really enjoy just the ending itself. We have, of course, John Wayne's character of Cole Thornton kind of agreeing, in some way to kind of stay behind, kind of perhaps him staying with Maudie, and him, kind of being seen to finally with the kind of paralysis that he's been experiencing, and by a doctor, and seeing if they could help this kind of paralysis for John Wayne. The experiences that he's been having, linked to the spine, of course, and I think the way that's done as well was very tense. That kind of the way that kind of thing he's been experiences, was being used, the gunfights and all this, because kind of at one point, he can't continue with the gunfight, because he kind of falls down and all this, and it's something that does add a kind of layer of tension to the film, and something that's kind of it adds something to the action here, and it's definitely quite layered in that sense. And I think there's definitely some complex moments in the final act, but it's mostly quite a simple ending, which I enjoyed, and I think just a lot of the characters, I think perhaps take a back seat as we go throughout the film, considering the first act or so. I think even Mississippi at times, I think one of the things with this character is, he starts off, this kind of quite legendary character. Of course, James Caan, I think, in this film is very, very good, and especially the way the character's introduced. And at times, some of the dialogue he's given is a bit, I wouldn't say sappy, but it doesn't quite fit the character for what it's set up. I don't think that was perhaps the best way to kind of the dialogue the character's given basically is not quite the kind of it kind of betrays the character really, the way the character he's set up. And I think just James Caan, the way he's giving the dialogue here, it's just I think it kind of goes against how he was set up in that kind of opening scene that he was in, and so it's kind of a bit muddled there. But I think as we go throughout the film, I just really enjoy the chemistry between James Caan and John Wayne. So I think some inconsistencies for sure, for me. But the final act, it does a very nice job of kind of bringing things together, and some interesting action, and just the way in which the characters are kind of we have the wrap up in the end. Some interesting themes as well with Mississippi though. At first, that's one of the things, the kind of vengeance theme, and just this whole kind of honor, portrayal of honor as well. I thought that was really interesting, and some things throughout the film as well. With Mitchum, him kind of being mocked by the town and all this for being kind of drunk, this drunk sheriff, and so I thought the way it was done at times was very complex with some of the characters, I think, and just it's just a bit of a imbalance with the actual the side plots, the threads, all the threads with all the different other characters, the villains. I just thought it kind of got in the way at times, of this, and I wasn't fully able to get immersed in this consistently, with the actual main characters at times. But when I did, I had a great time with the film. Just that final act where it comes together, Bart Jason when he was defeated as well. I thought that was really, really satisfying. So it's a nice ending, and it's one that was definitely overall an uplifting film. It was nice to see, and it's not anywhere close, to Rio Bravo for me personally. I just find it's just definitely nowhere near as good. Although we have got some interesting kind of dynamics in this again, and a kind of mirroring of that film, and also some similarities where they kind of are replaying certain elements from Rio Bravo, mixing them up, variations of different characters and themes and moments, kind of scenarios in that film. But it is quite a convoluted film at times for me personally, and it just isn't always that perfect balance that we had in Rio Bravo for me, with the characters, the plot, and the locations, and I think just the way things are set up and the way they progress, it isn't quite there at all for me personally. But I did enjoy this one, El Dorado. Definitely a solid Western film, and really cool to see this being this kind of part of this loose trilogy, of course, as well, between this and Rio Bravo and Rio Loba as well, being the final film. So I look forward to seeing that eventually, and we'll be checking that out and reviewing that hopefully on the channel as well. But for now, my rating for this film is a 71%. Very solid score for me, and I just thought this film, it was a really enjoyable one overall. I found the characters, the main ones, to be highly enjoyable. I just found as well the comedy at times, really funny and effective in kind of grounding the characters, even just where there is some dark themes, moments, in the film. Otherwise it would perhaps be a bit too dark in other films. I think Howard Hawks does a great job to kind of lighten the mood at times, and he does find comedy in even kind of darker places, and it does work for me, and it just adds to kind of this very interesting film, quite an interesting blend of themes, dynamics, and a tone that is mostly very consistent. I think it's just the balance of the plot and the characters, and the way things progress, and just the actual flow of the film that kind of sets it back, and just kind of that's the thing, the issues really with the film, where they lie, is that, and some characters here and there, like Mississippi, not being given the dialogue that really fits him, I found just at times, but I think the way the characters are introduced is one of the best things about this film, and the threads that are kind of there for Robert Mitchum, John Wayne, and Mississippi at first especially are very, very compelling, and I just think at times, it does kind of go off the rails, a bit throughout the film, and it does kind of come together again very nicely in the end, but I never really felt truly invested in quite a few of the threads, and really the villains to this film, for the most part, other than kind of a superficial feeling, I didn't, and of course elevated by, kind of conflict between them and John Wayne, and different characters like Mississippi. I think other than that, they weren't, the most interesting. They were quite bland for me at times, and I just found, because as well, what they were saying, and all the way the kind of plot was progressing with those different characters, I wasn't really ever fully invested and couldn't really follow personally. But that's just my opinion, of course. It's just a film that I think the real strength lies, in the characters and the atmosphere and the locations. Great use of sets here, would be something else, and just the entire visuals, of this film, and the score, it's absolutely stunning, and just really enjoyed this film for a first time watch. El Dorado. That's my thoughts on the film. What do you think? It'd be great to hear your thoughts on this film, your personal experiences with watching this film, and how does this compare to Rio Bravo for you if you've seen that film? And I really look forward to seeing Rio Lobo next, in this kind of loose trilogy of films, and reviewing that. And we'll be talking about that film hopefully on the channel, in the next couple of months, and I'll get access to that, and look forward to that for sure. And that's the final Howard Hawks film as well. So there we go. And of course, I did enjoy this film. In a nutshell, it's got some great characters, great moments, and visually and with the score, it is quite stunning. And I did find the humour in the film to be one of the highlights, and just John Wayne, Robert Mitchum, and of course James Caan. At times, love this stuff, but it's definitely got some flaws, and overall things that detract from my experience consistently. And I wanted to perhaps love this film, but in the end, I just couldn't, because I was uninvested at times, in different things that were going on and the way things progressed, and the structure of the film perhaps was not fully to my liking. But there we go. Did enjoy this one for sure, and it's definitely a uplifting, charming film as well. So there we go. That's my thoughts. As I said, it'd be great to hear your thoughts. And next up for Westerns, definitely some content to come over the next month or so, and I look forward to discussing just as many Westerns as I can, on the channel. Love discussing these. It's a great genre, of course, one of my absolute favourites, in cinema, and we'll be leaving once again a link to the playlist for all my Western content so far on the channel, so check that out if you're interested. But yes, for now, it'd be great to discuss this film, and a pleasure as always to discuss Westerns in the comments. So yes, as always, take care, and thanks for watching.